Oh no! I'm so sorry, it's the Moops. The correct answer is the Moops.
All right. Well, do you want to just like start at the top and go down? I have all my notes written out and I went in order of the game, so we can kind of just follow by that. And
Yeah, so I mean, we can go. Yeah, if you want to go just the order of the games in which the lines were sent to us.
yeah, and because like I was saying last night, I think if we just go every game, because there might be something that we don't think that we like, or
Yeah,
something that we do think that we like, and just by
and
talking through it, we can maybe
yep,
shift that, or maybe
yeah,
feel stronger about it. So
yep. Yeah, that works. All right, so first game is Ravens at the Jets. Ravens -7, and that line is the same for both the Super Contest and the Circa.
yeah, so this is a game. I didn't really like it too much. I would actually like it more if Wilson was starting. I just feel like he's so young and kind of the way that he plays, it can lead to more turnovers, more chaos, and maybe allow the Ravens to kind of build a bigger lead. But I just feel like with Flacco, I don't really care too much about the whole playing the Ravens thing at all. I just think it's more that he's a veteran. He's kind of more poised. He can kind of stay in there, and the Jets are kind of built to be maybe a scrappy team. They might be almost like how the Lions were last year with the way that they're covering spreads and kind of keeping those games close, at least for a good portion of the game. So I could see the Jets maybe keeping it within a touchdown. I feel like a touchdown's about right. So that's why I kind of pass on both sides, because I don't really want to take the Jets, but that 7 just feels like I could just see the Ravens winning by a touchdown, or if they do cover, it's one of those where maybe it's a late score that's not really worth sweating out.
Yeah. Um, so a few stats I did see. Jets are 0-6 in their last 6 September games against the spread. John Harbaugh 10-4 against the spread in Week 1 games. He's 5-1 in his last 6.
Yeah.
Uh, so against the spread numbers, definitely, if you kind of looked at those just purely on the surface, those would definitely lean to the Ravens. I mean, I like your point again about Flacco and that like he's probably going to play a more conservative brand of football, which means they're probably going to try and run it a lot. They're probably going to eat some clock, less turnovers, less volatility in terms of the game itself. Um, the other thing too, like I love the Ravens this year. I love Lamar. I saw you had him in your spreadsheet as an
Yeah.
MVP pick, which I like. I mean, the only thing I would say is like, I mean, he didn't play like for a lot of last year. Coming back off injury, he's lost Hollywood Brown. Their running back room is pretty fucked up right now, isn't it? Like, didn't they just sign?
They signed Kenyon Drake. They have Mike Davis, and then J.K. Dobbins. They're saying his status is up in the air for Week 1, and that was always kind of the case, right? With the
Yeah.
Rappaport tweet, and then Dobbins kind of went back at him. But I mean, Rappaport's maybe not wrong, anyways.
What did Rappaport say? What was the
He
tweet?
he just said it was something about, I don't know if it was PUP or IR, but just talking about how J.K. Dobbins might start the season on that list.
Mm,
And Dobbins kind of tweeted back at him and said that it was a bullshit report. But I mean, the fact that his status is even up in the air right now. I mean, I think like a week later, Dobbins was put on the preseason one, which just lasts. Like, I think you can just come off of that whenever. But yeah, it was just kind of a
was
bad look for him.
Dobbins the same one where like some beat reporter was like J.K. Dobbins noticeably limping, and
Yeah, I'm pretty
he
sure.
replied and he was like, "That's not a limp."
Yeah, yeah, something like that. So I mean, It's maybe like the
He's a little sensitive over there.
where it's like why are you kind of going at it so much? But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it was always kind of a trend that we were noticing last year with the Ravens beating up on the bad teams, but I'm not really too concerned with Lamar's play. I think it's more the fact that, Hollywood is gone. Bateman's now stepping into that wide receiver one role. Obviously, Andrews is what he is, but who's going to be that next receiver, right? Is it going to be Likely? Is it going to be
Yeah.
one of those Duvernays or the Prochets that step up? And I mean, also, are they going to have Dobbins? And also, how effective is Dobbins going to be? Because he hasn't been playing since the ACL tear, anyways.
I mean, you look at look at Cam Akers tonight.
Yeah,
Non-factor,
yeah.
know.
But I mean, either way, I think we're spending way too much time in a game that I don't think we're going to take.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think we even like a side per
Yeah.
se.
But yeah, I mean the next one it's Saints -5.5 at the Falcons. So this one I usually like to stay away from these numbers because I just think they're those ugly numbers. But that 5.5 is just a weird non-football number. But I do think the Saints. Pete Prisco was talking about it the other day, and it is a good point. Like they have a really good defense, and Jameis, ever since he got the eye surgery, ever since he's been in New Orleans, he's been very efficient, and he now has way better receivers than he did last year. So Thomas is back. He's got Olave. He's got Jarvis Landry there. Um, I think that maybe they're a team that's maybe a little bit slept on this season. I think they're a team that's kind of slept on in that division too, because
I agree.
yeah, there are a lot of question marks with the Bucks right now too. So
Yep.
The Falcons are coming out and they're just a very incomplete team. So I think that this is a game where they're definitely going to win by a touchdown more. So even at that ugly 5.5, I do like the Saints -5.5.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much listed off everything that you just rattled. But I started my kind of game summary by saying everything is telling me to hammer the Saints, which makes me want to fade it. Like
Yeah,
I love the game so much. I'm like, do I love it too much?
yeah,
But I mean, to me, it's a hard one to ignore because again, I mean, you said it, but I actually do think the Saints are. I think they could win that division. I mean, they historically give the Bucks a tough time. They've given the Bucks a tough time when with Brady at QB. It's a really good football team. Jameis is back. He has looked good. I honestly don't even know who is starting for the Falcons at quarterback.
Mariota.
I mean, yeah, like I'm not impressed. I like the
Yeah, I
Saints.
mean, I think it's really the defense that's the problem. I think the offense, I think they'll be whatever. I think I forget who the cornerback's name is, the one that always shuts down Mike Evans, but I think London and Pitts. I think that they're going to have they'll be all right, and it's going to be kind of a high volume passing offense, so just those two mostly. But I think it's really that defense that might just get eaten up, and they're not going to be able to stop the Saints. It might be one of those where the Saints are just kind of scoring, whether it's a 3 or a 7 every possession.
Yeah. I like the pick. I think it's a good one for us to take.
Yeah. I mean, we can just put that aside because we can just kind of build that list and come back and maybe narrow it down because I'm sure we're not going to end up with exactly 5. So the next one's the Pats game. Pats +3.5 at the Dolphins.
Yep.
So this one's a stay away game for me just because I was kind of actually liking the Dolphins at -2.5 when I was seeing that earlier in the week and kind of those later weeks of the preseason, but at 3.5, I mean, it kind of makes me lean Pats, but at the same time, I just kind of want to see what both of these teams have. Because I'm really not that optimistic about the Pats, and by that I just mean like I think that there's like a 99% chance that they find, they find themselves in kind of like that 7 to 10 win window.
Yeah.
Where I feel like their floor is like hard at a 7, like they are way too good to go any lower than that. But I see it kind of just being like a boring 9-win season, kind of not really improving too much off of last year. I don't know, just kind of seeing what they're doing with the play calls. The preseason really didn't show much. And then with the Dolphins, it's like they've kind of gotten all this hype, but now we just kind of really have to see it. So I feel like these are just two teams where, maybe we're better off just kind of seeing what they got in this game and not really taking a side. I mean, Tua, he's also he's 3-0 against the Pats. He's got the
I don't
best
think
active QB against him.
Yeah. I think he would be the first QB to go 4-0 against Belichick, right? I think was the stat that I saw.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So it's
then,
that.
but then at the same time, like everything I read, everything you read and everything you see is Tua stinks, But I'm like, but he's 3-0 against New
Yeah.
England.
But those are also, I mean, that's really just like opinions. There's really nothing
Yeah.
fact based that actually backs that up. I mean, I'm a Tua defender, but it's like when you look at it, just like people don't really like it more comes down to not liking the way that he does it. But I mean, he's a
Yeah.
very efficient quarterback. And then I feel like people don't really factor in the situation that he had. I think people are going to realize that Flores is not that good of a coach. Um, I mean, you just see things where Tua he had the most votes for captain this year. Last year he wasn't even nominated, and that was all because of Flores. Flores didn't want him to get nominated. And it's like things like that where like the quarterback is not even getting nominated by the coach to be captain. So he clearly doesn't have his back there. And then we also see it over the last 2 years where Flores was so quick to just pull him out and not let him kind of get these growing pains. And I think that this is at least an opportunity for Tua to like actually flourish and actually show what he has. And if he can't do it now, then that would definitely be the end of the road for him. But it's I mean, you look at all this and it's like, my big defense for Tua has always just been like, how is he any worse than like 15 other starting quarterbacks in the league? It's like when you look at him compared to so many of these other guys that have jobs, it's like, why are you not also criticizing this guy and this guy and this guy? It's just very weird how people get so focused on Tua when, it's like I'm never arguing that he's a top 5 or even a top 10 guy. It's more just like, people are talking like he should not even be employed in the league, and he's just as good as literally half the quarterback.
Like, take it easy,
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you on I do kind of want to just see what we got with both teams. I mean, I'm highly curious about this Miami offense. I mean that's we're talking about the Ravens on the flip side with like what's going on in that running back room. I look at the Dolphins and I'm like, man, they got some weapons in that.
Yeah, I mean they've built a good team. It's like I think what's slept on is that Chase Edmonds in the running game. It's like everything I've read is that
they got
the way that he plays is perfect for that scheme.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it'll be interesting to see. They have him, they have Mostert who brings the speed, and then he's also Ben and McDaniels' run game as well. So yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be a good team. I mean, they looked good when they had the starters running in the preseason, and that was without Waddle playing too. So, Tyreek had that huge. It was like a 50-yard pass from Tua, and then, adding Waddle into that game, it'll just be interesting to see. But I mean, I think we're better off just kind of watching this. I mean, I don't think I'm going to bet on the Pats at all this weekend. Like I said, I don't know. I just feel like this is a team that's going to win all the games that they're supposed to win, and then when it comes to the coin flip games and the step up games, they're just not going to get those. And I'm just not too confident in those this year.
Yeah. Yep. No, it's fair. I'm fine to pass this.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we got Panthers and Browns.
Yes.
Panthers -1.5.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I've told you.
Yeah, so this is one. So I did some thinking about it, and
I
actually ended up talking myself into Browns +1.5.
Really?
I think you might have said Panthers +1.5. I believe it's Browns +1.5.
No, I said Panthers -1.5.
Okay, yeah. So here's what I wrote. So I said, I get the appeal, but I mean, I think that one thing that we got to think about is Carolina is not a good team. And Cleveland, like they are still built to win a championship. They're just missing their championship quarterback. They still have Nick Chubb. They held on to Kareem Hunt. They went out and got Amari Cooper. They have Myles Garrett on defense. They have Denzel Ward on defense. They have a really good defense.
Yeah.
And I understand, the Baker revenge angle, but it's like, why should we kind of believe that he's going to come out and actually do that? He's been pretty bad. He's fallen flat. He gets the commercials. It's like, I used to, because I used to live with a Browns fan. I used to always joke. It's like there was nothing funnier than going from a Baker Mayfield interception straight into one of his commercials. And, but so one thing that I was curious about though, because I remember that Baker missed some games right last year. So I looked up how the Browns did, and these were the only Stefanski games without Baker. So they went 2-1 without him. They lost with Nick Mullins. They lost 16-14 to Vegas. So 2-point loss to Vegas with Nick Mullins. and then they went 2-0 with Case Keenum. They won 17-14 against Denver, and then they also won 21-16 against Cincinnati. So there also is precedent there with a backup stepping in and kind of still being able to just kind of be a cog in the machine. And Brissett's just kind of that same type of guy, right? I mean, he's the safe quarterback. He kind of comes in, makes the short throws, hands the ball off. But right now they have an elite run game, and they have Amari Cooper that's catching the ball. It's like I feel like people are kind of forgetting the fact that, okay, sure, from like a fantasy perspective, Amari Cooper's not as appealing with Brissett throwing the ball to him compared to Deshaun Watson, but at the same time, from a real life football perspective, that's a very good receiver that's coming in and is going to be catching those passes. And yeah, I mean, I think it's just a better team. It's like, if it was Deshaun Watson and the Browns against the Panthers, I think we'd be hammering the Browns at this
And
point.
the line would be totally different,
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is like the line would be so much different. So now all of a sudden it's like how much is so like what do you think the line would be at if Deshaun was playing, right? Like I think that would probably be around a touchdown, probably,
Yeah, maybe.
especially with the Browns on the road. So it's like
Yeah.
now all you're doing is removing Deshaun Watson. Is that really worth a full touchdown? I feel like that's kind of an overcorrection, but based on what you usually see from when a quarterback's out,
Yeah.
like it's usually what maybe like a max of like 4 points, I feel like. Um so it's like I just feel like that's maybe like a bit of an overcorrection. It's like I don't love the Browns, but it's like I definitely am not with the Panthers on this. It's like I said, I see no reason to trust Baker Mayfield in this spot.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think Jacoby Brissett. Here's the thing with Jacoby Brissett. I have a lot of love for what he did back in 2016, coming in when Garoppolo couldn't make that start.
Yeah.
Took out the Texans, but the very next week he goes out, gets shut out against the Bills, and I feel like ever since, like he is not a good quarterback, not good. I mean, I just googled Jacoby Brissett, and the first article that came up was Jacoby Brissett ranked the second worst starting QB in the NFL.
Yeah.
From the Ringer. I mean, I am a believer in the Baker revenge game. I mean, I love the fact that he's got a guy like McCaffrey, in the backfield. They do have a pretty solid defense too. I mean, that defense kept them in a lot of games last year. And I don't know. I look at that Browns team and I'm like, this entire franchise is a fucking mess right now. Like they couldn't figure out what to do with the Baker thing. They couldn't figure out how to do the Deshaun Watson thing. They signed him to the big contract. He still comes in and gets suspended. Now they're dealing with Jacoby Brissett as their starter. Like I just feel like that franchise doesn't have a fucking clue.
Yeah.
I think it's bad, and I think they're going to pay for it early in the season, and they're probably going to be dig themselves too big of a hole to even get out of it. So I'm a believer. I think I love the Panthers to win this game. Love them to cover. It is if it's wrong, it must be a misprint pick of the week.
I think that's a bad investment on that.
I called
the debut with that pick. I think that's tough.
I called it a week ago, and I'm sticking with it.
So here's one thing. Let me point this out too, right? So for what it's worth, Matt Rule is the best odds to be the first coach that's fired.
Yeah.
I think that you're really kind of understating how bad the Panthers are. Like they're a very bad team. And it wasn't just because of their quarterbacking, but they went from Darnold to they brought in Baker to kind of maybe try and revive his career. But so another thing I want to point out, right? When Jacoby Brissett had to step in when Tua was out, because Tua had the rib injury last year. The Dolphins, they still went 2-3 with him. And when you're looking at his starts, like I'm seeing 66%, 66%, 69% completion percentage, 60%. And then against Baltimore, he had a very bad game. But, they lost games against the Raiders, the Colts, the Bucs. Those are 3 good teams. And then they beat Houston, and then they actually beat Baltimore when he had a bad game. So it's like, even there, like that's Jacoby Brissett able to step in and, still win with the team. And, I think the Browns are still built a little bit better than the Dolphins were last year, actually, especially when you're looking at that offense, right? The Dolphins did not have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. They had Myles Gaskin. They had a worse offensive line. Sure, they had Waddle, but they didn't have any other receiving options. Here, the Browns have Amari Cooper. So it's like it's like I said, the Browns are a team that were built with championship aspirations, and they just had their quarterback removed. Where we're looking at a team, the Panthers, who their head coach is expected to get fired first. And, so that kind of speaks to what their aspirations are and kind of how they're built, where they're kind of just that in the middle team. Like maybe they can make some noise and make a run at a wild card spot. But if the Browns weren't missing Deshaun, they'd be competing for the division. They'd be looking at, trying to get, 11, 12 wins, that type of thing. So I don't know. I just see that, and it's like, I don't think that drop off in quarterback is enough to make me like the Panthers. So that's just how I feel about that pick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're that bad of a. I mean, I do. I look at their skill players, and they got some pretty good skill players. I mean, DJ Moore has consistently been, one of the better wide receivers in the NFL, and he's done that with some pretty bad quarterbacks. Obviously, they got McCaffrey. It's week one, so he's healthy. So
Yeah,
probably,
but you could say that about the same side on the Browns too, right?
yeah, no, sure, but I mean, I look
at
at McCaffrey and I'm like, this is one of the most dynamic, outstanding players in the NFL. He's definitely a top five.
Yeah, but even then, I mean, that always results in 5 wins, 5 wins, 5 wins. And like the Panthers last year.
I mean, it results in 5
team.
wins because he always gets hurt. But I'm saying we're going to get the very best version of Christian McCaffrey that we'll get all year because it's game one, and he's going to come out of the gates. So I mean, I like the pick, but it's one of those things. Like if you're very much against the pick, then we're not going to make the pick.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, I see a team that's trying to break up a 7-game losing streak from last year, and I don't know, it's tough, especially I don't know, just coming out the gates. I think that there's ones that I like more.
Yeah. Well, let's keep it moving and see what else we can see what else we land on.
Yeah.
All right. So next game is Bengals and Steelers.
Yeah. So I like the Steelers side here. I think that the Bengals, there's some regression to be expected here. And I don't even necessarily know if it's regression because I think they were like a 10-win team last year. But more so, you kind of see that team in the Super Bowl. You think that they're always going to be there. And I think that was way more of a Cinderella run than people are kind of acknowledging. And, they're not a team that you can just kind of expect to be back there. I think that they're still missing some pieces. They definitely need some work in that O-line. I think they did work on it in the offseason.
I mean, I think I said this to you last week too. Like, you've also got to remember, like, that Cinderella run, like that almost didn't even happen coming out of the game against the Raiders. I mean, they were a favorable touchdown call. And I mean, the Raiders also, they had a shot at the end zone. Didn't they like come up short at the 1 or something?
I think so.
The Raiders had a chance to win it at the end, like a favorable touchdown call. Raiders were right there. So, I mean, yeah, I agree with you on the Cinderella run thing. And I think it's fair to assume that there may be some regression, or at the very least, they are what they were last year.
And the Steelers, they still have that strong defense. They still have Najee Harris and Mitch Trubisky. I think it's just he can step in and he can kind of just maybe if he can play a safer game, right? And I feel like when you come to a program like the Steelers, it's that kind of more disciplined program. And he went out and he won the QB1 job. That was a competition, so there is some trust there with him as well. And
he won it against an incumbent, and he won it against a high draft pick.
Yeah, and it's also like we've seen what the Steelers can do last year with a quarterback that was very bad.
Yeah.
Sure, he had the name values, Ben Roethlisberger, but he was a very bad quarterback, and they still had a decent enough floor, right? I mean, what did they win? Were they like a 7-win team? Yeah. But they came out, and I remember last year, I don't know if we took them, but they played the Bills close. They ended up covering that week 1 spread. And I remember that was a game that we at least talked about. I don't know if we ended up taking it, but yeah, I think the Steelers can just come out. They can play some good defense. It's going to be a tough divisional game. And if they can kind of just run the ball effectively and then hold on to the ball, that'll be the biggest thing. As long as Trubisky can kind of keep that ball safe, it's like I think they can maybe do a good job, and they can keep it within a touchdown and cover that 6.5-point spread.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, a few things that I pulled out too. The Super Bowl loser hangover. Their Super Bowl losers are 4-18-1 against the spread in their season openers the following season. 19 games. Tomlin, I mean, Tomlin's a guy I've always loved. Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, I like Tomlin in spots like this,
You
especially
know,
against
and
good
it's
defense.
funny, like, I wrote in my notes, I was like, Tomlin's a guy who's got that dog in him.
Yeah,
They are an underdog. And then I heard a stat today. He's like 45, 20 something and one as an underdog.
yeah,
Uh, so he like thrives in this role. I also went back and looked at the last few seasons with Trubisky. He's been a bit of a fast starter as a starter. So the last few seasons in which he was a starter, obviously he wasn't last year when he was backing up in Buffalo, but he's come out of the gates. He's gone 2-1, 3-1, 3-1. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I actually think he's pretty he's decent enough, and he's got weapons. I mean, you talk
yeah.
about Najee Harris, and then you look at that receiving core, and then that defense. And then the other thing I heard today too, just kind of against the Bengals and Burrow in particular. I mean, Burrow had what, appendicitis during the
Yep. I was
preseason.
actually, I didn't want to cut you off, but that was going to be I was going to say it.
Yeah, yeah. Like how it hasn't gotten a lot of reps. It's so I mean I could also just see them being a team that's maybe a bit of a slow starter until they maybe find a groove. So I love the points here. I think it's a nice pick.
Yeah, and because I was the thing I was going to say about Trubisky was like he's a guy where you look back at his stats, it is easy to say like, oh, actually he wasn't that bad, but
Yep.
you do have to remember back when we were actually in that time, there were plenty of moments where it's like, oh Jesus Christ, like Trubisky kind of stinks. But at the same time, it's like you look at that and he was still able to kind of play in that way and put up kind of maybe these numbers or maybe kind of give like a little bit of like facade, but he still went 11-3, 8-7, 6-3. So it's like he can still play as kind of the Trubisky that we know
Yeah.
and play on a winning team. So it's like, if Tomlin kind of knows how to use that and maybe if he can kind of have like that maybe Jameis resurgence, right? Where he just comes in, he kind of retools his game and plays a more disciplined game. That
Yeah.
could kind of be some effective football there. And
Yeah.
like I mean, I think we both love Tomlin in spots like this. So yeah, it's 6.5. I think they can definitely keep that within a touchdown, kind of have it be maybe a
Yeah.
little bit of a back and forth game, maybe an ugly game.
I mean, they could win it outright.
Yeah,
I mean, that wouldn't shock me.
yeah.
That could, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how popular a pick the Bengals will be in terms of like Survivor, but given that 6.5 point spread, some people might run to it. So that could be that. I mean, that's an underdog money line where I'm like, I wonder if some people could get knocked out of Survivor with that.
Yeah. And because
Um,
it's like, I mean, it's just like Bengals minus 6.5, I would just never want to take it. It's like,
yeah,
if it came down to like, are you married to the Steelers 6.5 pick? Like, no, not necessarily, but I would never want to take that Bengals side in this spot.
yeah, yeah. Um, all right. Cool. I like it.
Yeah.
All right. Next game, 49ers at the Bears. 49ers are -7.
So
Moving up.
this was a pass for me. It's just two teams and two quarterbacks that I'd kind of like to see play first. I do kind of just I guess I lean the Niners because they're just like the better team, but at the same time, Kittle might not play. Um, there are just maybe some kind of concerns with Trey Lance, and that's why I just kind of want to see it first. It doesn't sound like the Niners are necessarily all in on him yet, right? I mean,
Oh, I mean,
yeah, it's like I mean, it's been no big secret. It's been the big talking point where bringing Jimmy back has been kind of that hedge just in case,
I gotta
Trey Lance
ask,
isn't able to elevate him.
did they like? And it's kind of funny because I remember who did we who did we bet last year? Was it Justin Fields? I think we had bet. Remember we bet on this pick, the 49ers picking the
Oh, yeah, I think we took Fields, yes.
yeah. But I almost wonder if like the 49ers had a moment like you and I would have in an online draft where like all of a sudden it's 10 seconds left and the clock's beeping and then they just hit the wrong button. Like,
Yeah,
they take the wrong guy. I like because it's like they say they're all in on him. They name him the starter early. Everything you read is that Jimmy G's on his way out. And then now the headlines you're reading is like Trey Lance is pissed off because Jimmy G is still there, but it's like, maybe look inward and wonder
yeah.
why,
Well,
you
I also
know?
saw a thing too. I saw so the Niners the last 2 years they've had seven captains, and this year they decided to go with six. And the person that came in seventh in the vote was Trey Lance. which I just find interesting. It's like what led to that decision then to cut it off at 6? I guess
That's like a
maybe the
Flores,
belief
that's
is
a
that
Flores Tua thing going
yeah,
on.
it is exactly where it's like it's just like what made that decision? It's like I guess maybe the general belief is maybe just because Trey Lance hasn't been a starter yet, and that could be why. But it's kind of weird, right? It's like this team goes all in on him at
I
3
mean,
when the whole time they're telling everybody it's going to be Mac Jones, Mac Jones, Mac Jones, and they all of a sudden they shock everybody. They go with him at 3, and then they make this move where it's like they make it clear that it's his team, and then they still bring Jimmy back. It's like, yeah, it's just kind of weird. I mean, even the more I talk about it, the more I kind of like the Bears side, but at the same time, the Bears are just they're kind of just the other side of that coin where it's like I also want to see what can Fields do in this second year, right? Like, I mean, he showed so many good flashes, but at the same time, he had a lot of bad a lot of bad plays, a lot of bad games. So I'd also just kind of like to see what he does, see this Eberflus guy as the coach, see if that changes anything with Nagy gone. But yeah, overall, this game's just kind of a pass to me, especially at that 7. It's like that's just so big. It's like I don't see an edge on either side.
and I mean, I pulled up on pff.com offensive line rankings. The Bears are 31st. I mean, everything I've been reading is that offensive line is going to be one of the worst, if not the worst. And it's like
Yeah.
he's going to be running for his life, second year QB. I mean, it's got like who are his weapons? Like Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, and Mooney's good, but
Good, but like
besides that, I think like Velas Jones is like the wide receiver 2 or something. It's like there's just not many options. I
I
mean,
mean,
maybe Kmet can break out. He's kind of a little bit of a breakout candidate at tight
yeah.
end, but it
I'm,
could be a lot of relying on that run game too with Montgomery and Khalil Herbert.
well, and that's another thing too. Like I was, I mean, especially prepping for like fantasy drafts, like I was reading a lot about how like Khalil is it Herbert or
Yeah.
does he go with the French pronunciation? Herbert. Um, but he's in Montgomery's rearview mirror. Like it sounds like in that system or what they're trying to do with that system, they actually prefer him. But like Montgomery's the guy right now. But makes me
Yeah,
kind
because
of
Montgomery he hits free agency after this year, so it kind of
yeah
just it's like kind of a natural succession plan. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
yeah, it could just kind of be what we've seen where maybe it's like a 60-40 split or maybe even closer
yeah
to 50-50 at times. But I mean, Montgomery's also just nasty. It's like I feel like so many people, whenever they hear about those situations, they're so quick to kind of just throw the current RB1 kind of to the wayside and just forget
yeah
about him. And that's what
yeah
I was saying. That's what I was saying to Scotty at the draft when, after I took Zeke, it's like, everybody just keeps talking about how Zeke's efficiency falls off, but it's like, okay, so he went from 4.5 yards per carry to 4 yards per carry, but he's still getting 300 carries a year.
yeah.
Like, so from a fantasy standpoint, like, who gives a shit?
He's still getting the
It's like,
rock.
they everybody talks about Zeke and how he's fallen off, but he was like RB6 last year.
Yeah.
And it's like, so who really fucking cares? And
Yeah.
like, sure, like, Pollard's kind of like knocking on the door, he's like right on his heels, but at the same time, Zeke is still getting all those carries. And I mean, like Scotty was saying this year, it's like, why wouldn't the Cowboys still just like get their money's worth and run him into the ground? And it's the same
Yeah.
thing with Montgomery. It's like, all right, if you're gonna let him walk and let
Let him
Herbert step in,
yeah,
why
let
wouldn't
him
you
hit
just
the
let
ground.
Montgomery dominate those carries
Yeah.
and kind of keep your next guy fresh and kind
Yeah.
of let him come in and kind of just bust off a few good runs? But yeah, I mean, it's like Montgomery's still going to be used and he's still going to be used effectively, I would
Yeah.
think. And,
Yeah.
you got a guy coming from the Colts, so hopefully he can kind of bring some of that run game that brought a lot of good out of Jonathan Taylor. I mean, I think Jonathan Taylor is a naturally more gifted running back anyways, but
Yeah. Yeah.
if you can get somebody that's like a poor man's JT from last year, I mean, that would be great. And
Yeah.
Montgomery's already shown that he can be a guy that gets you, I think, 1,400 yards. So
Yeah.
it is interesting, but yeah, I mean, I think these are just kind of two teams to keep an eye on, especially with Kittle. It's not like Kittle's even in or out yet. So it's like, we could be taking
Yeah.
a good number here. We could be taking a bad number here anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
Yeah. I mean,
also,
I don't know. When I was looking at this game, like just where I netted out was it's a pass because you've got two sides of a coin and both of them are bad. So I don't even
yeah,
want to flip it.
yeah.
All right. Next game we got Eagles at the Lions -4. I think this is a fun game for us to talk about. These are two teams that are of high interest to us.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm definitely low on the Lions this year, or I mean,
Uh,
not even necessarily, right? I mean, I took that under 6.5, and like I've
Well,
said, it's like,
I would say I don't think that you're low. I think you have more muted expectations than the general public because I think there's
Yeah, and
just a
I
lot of
think more than
positive stuff.
anything, I just kind of saw value in that under. It was, I mean, I
Yeah,
got plus 140 on under 6.5. So it's like I look at that and I see 5 and 12 wins the bet, 6 and 11 wins the bet, and I'm getting it at plus money. I think, 7 is maybe the cap for that team. So, getting that under at plus money was just too good a value. Um, I mean, I think it's still going to be a scrappy team, though. I think there's still going to be a team that competes and maybe covers these spreads, but I think maybe bigger spreads, right? I mean, I
yeah,
like the Eagles -4 here. I think we're both very into the Eagles this year.
yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just reading what I wrote down, but it's lines may be gritty, but I still think this is a losing team. They got a lot of holes, especially in that defense, and I love the Eagles offense. And I think Sirianni is a guy that kind of just has things figured out. And Big Cat was saying it, but it's like, maybe it wasn't even him. I don't know. But he kind of came out. He had the weird initial press conference. Everybody's shitting on him because he just seemed like really, really nervous.
Yeah.
But he seems to kind of maybe be putting something together. And I'm definitely a Jalen Hurts believer. I love AJ Brown coming into this
Oh,
offense.
yeah.
I'm a guy that always I just for some reason I always want to give Miles Sanders another chance and kind of just see if he can kind of be what he was expected to be, that poor man Saquon coming from Penn State, but then also Kenneth Gainwell in the backfield too.
What's that?
Kenneth Gainwell in the backfield too. I mean, I think it's
Yeah,
just they're a well-built offense, and
they are.
Miles Sanders had the joke not to take him in fantasy, but I mean, I think that there's still two guys. I think Sirianni could figure out how to use them in a good way, the two of them, and get a good run game going between Gainwell, Sanders, and then Hurts. Obviously, his ability to run the ball from the pocket. Um, and if the reports are true that Jalen Hurts has been kind of finding that accuracy, then that could really kind of be the step up that this team needs. And I like them to win the division, but I like them to win here too. And hopefully we don't get burned and they win by 3 points or something. But I think this is a team that's kind of looking to win the division, looking to win winning the playoffs. And the Lions are a team that they're still looking to build, but I think they'll come out and the Eagles can win by a touchdown and that covers the spread. So I like the Eagles
Yeah.
here. I don't know
I
where you're
mean,
standing on it.
yeah, no, I was leaning Eagles. I mean, I do. I love the Lions. I mean, I love everything they're about. I loved watching them on Hard Knocks. I love a lot of the weapons that they have. You know, I mean, I love Dan Campbell. I don't know if you're gonna. I don't know how much you're gonna win with Dan Campbell as a head coach.
Yeah.
I love the coaching staff that they got. Like, I mean, but
Well,
you
that's
know,
actually the thing. Speaking of the staff, though, is like that's why I think that you actually can win with Campbell as a coach because he's
maybe,
such a good players coach, and he's a
yeah,
rah rah guy, and he stands by his guys and all that. And it seems like he has a really good staff around him with
yeah,
Brunell running the quarterbacks, Deuce Staley with the running backs, Aaron Glenn as the D coordinator. It's like he seems to have a really good group of guys there that
yeah,
they might be able to carry kind of the X's and O's for him while he just gets the guys fired up and
yeah,
kind of builds that culture. I mean, I think at the worst Campbell's going to come in and like actually reset the culture for Detroit, and it seems like he's
yeah,
already doing it. And
yeah. It might be a situation. It's like, you see it all the time with boxers where, like, a trainer will get a kid to a certain point in his career.
yeah,
Yeah. He's like, he might be undefeated,
yeah,
and he might get a shot at a title. But then at some point, that boxer is going to realize, like, hey, it's been a good run, but, like, I got Freddie Roach at wild card, who's gonna get me like multiple world titles, that sort
yeah.
of
And
thing.
I actually feel that way about a team that we'll talk about later. But yeah, because I was talking about it with somebody, and I was saying it's like it's the same thing. It's like Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr. It's just like, yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
coach
yeah,
just maximizes what they can do with the team. And it's not that they're a bad coach. It's not that the team is bad with them. It's just
yeah.
that there is more that they can do, and there's somebody else that kind of unlock that
And
for them.
that guy
Yeah,
may not be able to do it. But yeah, I mean, you make a good point about Campbell. Like, as long as he stays out of the way and he kind of stays in his lane, and just stays within himself, like, yeah, I mean, it could be a situation where the guys around him,
yeah.
you know,
Because Hard Knocks did not show him doing many X's and O's stuff.
no, no, they did not. They did not. But yeah, I mean, I do like, but again, as much as, like, I love the Lions, I think it's a matter of, like, showing some restraint and not buying too much into the hype, and maybe over uh giving them more credit than like what they really are.
Yeah, and that could also be a thing from Vegas too, where it's like they know that the public kind of buys into these
Yeah.
Hard Knocks teams, so maybe you set the line a little low, and
Yeah.
you get these people to buy in at that, and
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know,
For sure. But I do like. I mean, I think the Eagles are going to win that division. I think they're going to be in the hunt for the NFC title. Um, I actually love that this is in Detroit for them because this could be a fucking track meet.
yeah,
Uh, especially with all those weapons and Hurts on his feet. So, yeah, I like the Eagles -4. I think it's a pick.
yeah.
All right, I'm gonna mark it down for us. All right, next we've got Colts at the Texans. Colts -7.
Yep. So this is one I'd seen earlier in the week that the spread was like 8.5, and I
Yeah.
love the Texans at that.
Yep.
I'm staying away from this at 7 on the dot. Um, it's not enticing enough to really take the underdog because it's like I don't know if the Texans are necessarily going to be pushing to win the game. Um, I think that they could be pushing to kind of cover at a big number, but I'd rather see them. If I thought the Texans were kind of going to be neck and neck with the Colts all game, and then it might come down to like the last possession, then I'd like
Mhm.
them way more at that +7. But the fact that it's like I think that they might be kind of more in that kind of always chasing down 4 type thing, and then maybe the Colts score late and go up. That makes
Mhm.
me not like their side as much. And with the Colts, it's like I just kind of don't like them. The fact that we're getting them at an even touchdown, and I just makes me a little uneasy because it's like. Um, I just want to see Matt Ryan in the system, right? I want to see if he really does have something left in the tank, or if kind of what we were seeing in Atlanta is just him kind of being washed up, and it's almost like a Philip Rivers came in and just really wasn't much there. So yeah, this is more. I like the Texans this year. I'm on their over for their wins. I think I had them at four and a
Yeah.
half, but yeah, it's kind of like a weird number to me, and I'd rather just stay away. I think a touchdown's maybe about right.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think all right, some stats that I don't know, I think are interesting and worth noting. Since 2008, Colts are 112-1 against the spread in week 1 games. Not good.
No.
Since 2002, all 6 teams to be at least 7.5 point home underdogs in their season openers covered the spread, which favors the Texans. Colts are 9-2 against the spread against the Texans since 2007.
Yeah.
Um, Home underdogs in divisional games are 13-2-1 against the spread in week 1 in the last 10 seasons. Colts are 8-4 against the spread as road favorites, 6-2 against the spread under Frank Reich since 2020. So like there's some things that point Texans, but there's some things that point Colts.
Yeah.
So it's I don't really see anything that's like swaying me one way or another. I do think the Texans, that's a team. I think they are scrappy. But again, like I mean, you said something earlier that kind of jumped out at me, which was like, I think they could play to cover. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really want to bet on a team that we're having play to cover, like I feel better about a dog, like we were talking about the Steelers, where we're like, like I personally feel like they could win straight up, actually, like the way that some things are trending.
Yeah.
I feel better at taking the points with a team that I think could win outright than I do a team that like, hey, maybe they can cover. So I think it's a good pass for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. Next game, Commanders at home. They're given 2.5 to the Jaguars.
Yep. So the Jags are my lean here. I did like them a ton, right? I mean, maybe it was when we were in Vegas, or maybe it was just I was just texting you or something, but
Yeah.
this was an early pick that I had. I'm kind of off it a little bit just because I feel like it's maybe too popular of an underdog pick.
Mm,
I think it's maybe one of those that everybody looks at and everybody jumps on that because it's like, the Commanders stink.
yeah.
Trevor Lawrence, they got a new coach, no Urban Meyer. Gun to head, and if we're looking for a pick, then I definitely like the Jags here. But it is one of those where when I'm narrowing it down on my 5, it's like I do just feel kind of weary about how much it jumped out to me on the paper, and then because I loved it when I first saw it back then, but all of a sudden when it's week one and leading up to it, and I see all these people talking about the Jags plus 2.5, it just kind of gives me some pause there where it's like, why is the entire public looking at this underdog?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean you are right about because it's down to what do we say? It's down to 3 or 2.5.
2.5, or
Yeah,
that's what our spread is, right?
opened is 4.5.
Yeah.
Well, obviously the public is hammering Jacksonville.
Yeah, because I want to say even when we were in Vegas and we were talking about it, I think it was even like 3.5.
Yeah, might have already come down. The Jacksonville has lost 17 straight road games outright. They're fucking 5-12 against the spread last season. Let's see, 0-5 against the spread in non-conference games. Washington 1-5 against the spread in September games against Ron Rivera. Yeah, I think there's something about like there's this like interesting public narrative about how much the Commanders suck. Um, but I don't know that they suck more than Jacksonville.
Yeah, like is this a game that they suck in? Because like they're not a winless team.
Yeah, you know,
what did I take their
Wentz is another guy who everybody likes to shit on him. It's not that bad. I mean, I think he's an upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, this is the team. So
year.
yeah, I took them under 8.
Yeah.
Under 8 wins. I mean, so that's where their win total's at. So it's like when
Yeah.
I don't have their schedule on hand. We could obviously look it up, but it's like, yeah, you just think about it, it's like, is this really a game that they lose? It's like this is a game that they could lose, and that's part of the problem, and that's part of why I like that under 8. But they are going to win games. They have to win games. This feels like a game they might win, and like I said, it gives me pause when so many people are on a pick that seems like a um kind of like that low key kind of value pick. And yeah, I mean, gun to head, I think I still like the Jags. I just kind of see the value there.
Yeah.
But it's much less appealing of a pick than it was to me, say 2 weeks ago.
I mean, if anything, I'd actually lobby to um take Washington.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at it that way, I do kind of like the contrarian view of just maybe going Washington there. And
Here's another thing I'll just point out again. I'm going to pff.com offensive and defensive line rankings. The Jaguars offensive line is ranked 26th. Not the Redskins, the Commanders.
yeah,
Their defensive line is ranked 2nd.
yeah,
So that's also like, this is a game that I think could be won in the trenches. Trevor Lawrence could have a really tough time getting the ball off. I mean, he might be under duress the entire day. I think we saw last year, like he was turnover prone. That may be no different on Sunday. So yeah, if anything, I do think there's something interesting about the contrarian pick of going Washington. But I think it's something maybe we put a pin in it, see where we net out, and then if we want to come back to it, we can consider it.
yeah. I mean, yeah, there's plenty more left that I like. I feel like we won't end up having to use it or anything, but
yeah.
I mean, if we feel like we're really kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel for a 5th pick, I mean, I think it is maybe an interesting angle to kind of go with it.
Yeah. All right. All right. Chiefs -6 at the Cardinals.
So I think we're on the same page here. I love the Cardinals +6. That's like love, love, love. So the Cardinals, they have started off hot both these last 2 years. 2020, they started off 2-0. 2021, they started off 7-0.
Yeah.
Chiefs, they did not get better this offseason. They were off last year. Like they were not the same Chiefs that we were used to seeing last year. I remember what is it? People were starting to put 2 safeties back, and all of a sudden that just fucked everything up for them. And their offense was just very kind of vanilla, right? It's like we weren't seeing those same huge Tyreek Hill games. Travis Kelce was seeming ineffective at times. They really didn't seem to find a run game. And I don't really know why we should believe that they're going to find it this year either, right? I mean, Clyde, it did seem like maybe he was playing through some health issues. I think he had gallbladder surgery right before the season. He was playing like 20 pounds lighter than he usually is. So, there should be maybe some bounce back expected because he was a solid rookie and he had a very disappointing sophomore year. But, maybe he can come back and kind of be maybe what we saw rookie year and build off of that. But at the same time, like it doesn't seem like he's going to be that stud that maybe people were expecting when he was the first running back off the board over Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, guys like that. But then they brought in Ronald Jones, and then they have Isaiah Pacheco, or I think it's pronounced Pacheco. But I mean, that's those are guys where it's like maybe they have some hype, but they're not stepping in. I mean, Ronald Jones, I think, barely made the roster. So where's the run game? And then, maybe Mahomes can still be very, very good with maybe spreading it out a little bit more between Juju, Valdez-Scantling, getting Sky Moore involved. But we just haven't seen it yet. And, I think the Cardinals, like we were saying, they start off hot. You got Hollywood Brown back in there. Sure, DeAndre Hopkins is missing, but you got Hollywood back. Kyler and Hollywood, they were unbelievable at Oklahoma. I feel like that's one of those where, especially coming out against the Saints defense or Chiefs defense that, is always getting cooked over the top. It's like I could see Hollywood, really having himself a game. So I expect a lot of points in this game, and I think that it's the Cardinals they're hosting, and they're getting a lot of points at home. They're 6-point home dogs.
A few stats that I think are in support of it. Cardinals are 3-0 against the spread in week 1 games under Kingsbury.
Yeah.
17-7 against the spread in September and October. 12-2 against the spread in September, October as an underdog. And they've gone 9-4-1 outright.
Yeah, and I don't think the vibes are as bad as people think.
No.
It seems like Kyler's in good spirits after all that contract stuff, and they were having the whole thing where he was calling plays in the fourth quarter of the preseason, and he came out and he had like the 3 and outs, but then the next week they came out and, I think he was putting points on the board, and, they seemed like they were kind of having a good time like that. And yeah, I think that they've kind of worked past all the stuff that seemed like maybe there was some drama in the offseason, but I think they're coming in, and I think that they kind of realize that they have to put it together. So that's why I like them in these long season props as well. But, and I'm feeling really good about that division bet after seeing how the Rams are playing. But, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of points at home, and I've been saying this about the AFC West and a team like the Chiefs, where I just don't see how they got better this offseason. And I was already down on them last year, and that just kind of got erased by them kind of making to the AFC Championship game. But I mean, that was another one too, where if they lost to the Bills, that 13-second drive or whatever the hell it was, if they don't kind of have that break, if the Bills kind of can take a few more seconds off the clock before they give the ball back, people might be looking at it different and saying like, damn, like the Chiefs really didn't have it this year, and kind of viewing them through a different lens. And I mean, they blew a huge lead against the Bengals in the conference championship. People were kind of just tweeting about how the Chiefs and Pat Mahomes were inevitable, and then all of a sudden the Bengals came back and go to the Super Bowl. So, I think people should be more down on the Chiefs than they are. I think people are still viewing them as maybe the best team in this division, and I just don't see that. So, yeah, I like the Cardinals to come out strong. I like the Cardinals to have a good year and have a complete season, and Kyler to kind of figure that out. So I feel like, start strong here with this massive underdog spread at home.
Yeah. Yeah, you were right. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
All right, let me I'm just marking that off. Let's see. All right, next game. Chargers at home. Not that matters. -3.5 against the Raiders.
Yeah, so this is another one where maybe I'm just preaching to the choir, but I love the Raiders plus 3.5 here. I know that we're both big on the Raiders this year.
Yep.
I'll still go through the notes that I wrote, but despite Gruden and Ruggs, all that stuff that went down, Vegas still went 10-7 last season. They beat the Chargers 35-32 week 18. That allowed them to sneak in.
Yeah,
you've already mentioned it, but they lost by a touchdown to the Bengals in the wild card. That could have changed the trajectory of the playoffs like crazy if all of a sudden the team that went to the Super Bowl was getting eliminated in the wild card. Who knows if, maybe that was just the path of destiny. Maybe the Raiders make that climb, or, maybe all of a sudden we're seeing, I don't even know who Bengals played the next round. But yeah, I mean, I just feel like, like we were saying about um what we were saying about that game. It's like, they could have easily made that run, but now they have McDaniels in. They don't have a special teams coordinator calling the shots. It's not a rookie head coach. He's making his return to coach, and he's got something to prove. And he's learned. He's got that championship pedigree, right? He went back to Belichick, won those. Because I mean, he wasn't a Super Bowl champion, I don't think, when he left the first time, McDaniels. Because I think he was there like those 2000.
Oh, so he would have been there like the
He was there during like that 10-year slump.
yeah.
And so now all of a sudden, but then he goes, he stinks it up in Denver, and then he comes back, he wins those rings, and it seemed like he was the heir apparent, but now he's kind of got his own thing going. But now they got McDaniel's there, they got Waller back healthy, they got Devontae Adams, Chandler Jones has been added to that defense, and I'm just not really buying. I'm not buying the hype when it comes to the Chargers. I think that they're still a very good team. I've said it before, but I think the AFC West, it's just like it's a thing where people just see 4 teams that are probably going to win, 10 plus games, or maybe 9 plus being conservative, but and they just see 4 good teams in the division. They kind of equate that to being the best team, but I don't think any of the teams in this division are the best team in the league. And the Chargers, they were like a 9-win team last year. They ended up missing the playoffs because they couldn't beat these Raiders. And it's like, did they really do enough to kind of become, the team with like such high expectations? I think that they're maybe still a year away, right? JC Jackson's not even playing this week. We've seen Khalil Mack play on plenty of bad teams. Adding him to a team doesn't necessarily make you a championship winner. And then, it's the same offense as last year. So it's like, we've seen what the Chargers do with this offense. It doesn't necessarily make them an elite team. It's like Herbert's still coming into his own. He's obviously a very good quarterback, but yeah, I mean, I just don't see this as like some world beating team. So it's like, I kind of like the Raiders getting more than a field goal here, because I think they can actually win this outright.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I actually like, I mean, you and I obviously have talked about the Raiders a lot. I like them to come out of that division. I think they're going to be very good. I think Carr is an interesting pick for MVP. Got a lot of weapons around him. He's got a real number one now with Devontae Adams. You were just saying about JC Jackson being out. I think Devontae Adams could have a huge game in this opener. And obviously he's going to be motivated to have a huge game in his opener, and really not that he has to prove his worth per se, but I think it's a big spot for him. And yeah, again, this is matchup of 2 teams that played in the finale last year. We saw how that went. I have questions about what's his name, Staley, as a coach. Is the guy an idiot? And getting 3.5. Believing that they can win this game outright. I like it as a pick. I think it's a good one.
Yeah.
So I'm on it.
Cool.
All right. All right, next game. Packers -1.5 at Minnesota.
So I lean Vikings +1.5 here. I like the underdog at home. I think this is a pretty fair spread. I think it is just about a pick 'em. I do worry that maybe I like the Vikings a little too much. It is still a rookie head coach. Rookie head coaches aren't always the most successful when it comes to week 1 games.
Yeah.
Sometimes it could take them a little bit to get that first win, but I do think this is a good team. And so this is what I was talking about when we were talking about the kind of just getting to that peak with a coach, but having more left in the tank, where, Zimmer, he was a good coach, but just their cap with him was just kind of that 8, 9, 10 win team.
Yeah.
Being that wild card spot, not really competing, especially in the division with Rodgers. But I think that Kevin O'Connell, he's going to come in, and it sounds like he's just kind of take the top off this offense and really open it up. And, we saw what he was able to do in LA last year with Kupp and Woods, and then when Odell came in, and even Van Jefferson having success. And I think he can definitely do that with Justin Jefferson, of course. But then Adam Thielen, I think, is a guy that people kind of sleep on him because he's getting old now. He's like 32, but he's still been so good, and he's been such a good red zone threat. And then also KJ Osborne, that's a really good third receiver that they have. And then Dalvin Cook, Madison, and then even this guy Ty Chandler is the third running back that they have there as a rookie. But they
Yeah.
have good running back depth there too. So, um, you know, I lean the Vikings here. I do kind of worry, with it's just one of those. It's like betting against Brady, betting against Manning, you're betting against Rodgers on the sideline. It does feel kind of scary, especially at -1.5. It's a divisional game.
Well,
You know
keep
how
in
much he
mind
loves to
though,
break those hearts, but
didn't Rodgers get blown out by what was it, Saints last year in the season opener?
yeah, but I mean, you could
No.
also make the argument that there were maybe other things. There was the whole contract thing going on. There was
Yeah, no, but
Devontae
I
Adams'
mean,
last dance thing.
but the point I'm making with that is like, you know, they still went on to have a fantastic season, and so like even though it might seem difficult to bet against Rodgers,
Yeah, I'm just saying more like I don't know if there's necessarily precedent there to say like does Rodgers always start slow or
no, yeah, but
because last year was like a
yeah,
very it was like a very kind of extreme circumstance with kind of like the holdout and the last dance stuff, which actually ended up being true, um and
yeah,
stuff like that. So it's like because I was thinking that too. It's like they came out and they got blown out, but I also don't want to just look at that one game and be like, oh yeah,
no,
well
no, no,
that
no,
could happen
no.
here too.
But it was, it was more just
Yeah,
it's anecdotal, but
yeah,
it's um, it has happened,
yeah.
and it happened last year. But I mean, I think the Packers have gotten worse. Um, I think the Vikings are loaded with a ton of weapons. It if I did have to make a pick on this, I'd probably lean Vikings. But I don't know. With a rookie head coach, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that I have
Yeah,
enough.
because it's so the way I see it too, right, is so yes, the Packers got worse in the sense that like they lost Avante Adams, who's the best receiver
Yeah,
in the league, and their whole thing was that they just had him and then like no depth behind him.
yeah,
But they are still a team that has a very good defense, and this is a team that they could maybe shift things and rely more on that defense and then rely on that run game
yep,
and kind of control the clock. I mean, they're a very good team with controlling the clock. That's like their thing,
yep,
right? Once they get
yep.
a lead and they got to kill the clock, it's like over.
Yeah, it's over.
So that could be a thing where, we could see a lot of low scoring games from the Packers this year just because they kind of do that, right? They kind of just pull these teams into the mud, suffocate them, try and hold them down on points, and then, they just need to get to like 21 points or something. And, I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll struggle to do that. We still got to see, and then that's kind of my hesitancy to kind of flip to the other side and take the Packers as well, because I still want to see what the hell they're doing with their receiving game. And I think they are going to lean a lot more on these running backs with Jones and Dillon, and both with running it with them more, but then also giving them a lot more targets. I mean, Jones already gets a ton of targets, but also maybe getting Dillon some more targets, working him in there, and just kind of getting the ball in their best players' hands. Um, you know, it does make me hesitate to bet against the Packers, but at the same time, I don't really want to take them either, just because I do want to see what they have. So I do
Yep.
lean the Vikings here. I think that they're going to be a good team this year, and I think this would be a good way for them to kind of start things on the right foot. But at the same time, it's a like, not a love.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's I would say let's mark it.
Yeah,
And I mean, the way we're going, I mean, we've already got five.
yeah,
So I know that we're going to need to use it. Um, but I mean, we can mark it and revisit it if we feel like we need to,
yeah,
but I agree with you with the lean, like not love. Um, if I had to pick it, I would go Vikings, but we don't have to pick it.
yeah,
Um, all right. Next game, Titans at home against the Giants. This is the one game where there's a variance between the two contests. So in the Super Contest, Titans are -5.5. In the Circa, they're -6. Not a huge difference, but it is a half point.
yeah. So this was another like, not love for me. I like the Titans here. I just feel like they're kind of overlooked. They're getting Henry back, and they're a team that's very scrappy, and they always kind of seem to be doubted. I mean, they were the 1 seed last year, no? And all of a sudden it's like people are just kind of looking them just because they don't have AJ Brown anymore. All of a sudden they're like these like huge regression candidates, but they still have Derrick Henry, and that's their bread and butter, right? They're still going to give it to him 20 times a game. He's going to get 100 yards, and whenever they get 100 yards, they win, all that stuff. And
Yeah.
I like Daboll, but that's another rookie head coach, and this is a very bad roster. I don't think that I think he's a good coach, but I think it would take a lot for him to just step in and all of a sudden make them a winner day one, right? Daniel Jones, he's awful. And back to the thing I was saying about AJ Brown being gone, they did bring in Robert Woods. So I like Traylon Burks a ton, and I think he's going to be a great rookie. And, I think he can be effective week one, but even if he's not able to, Robert Woods is a very good receiver, and he's practicing. He's coming off the ACL, but he's practicing without a brace, so everything seems fine with him. And I think going against a rookie head coach in Daboll, you got Vrabel, who's got the experience. He's a gritty guy. He can kind of just grind him out. I like the Titans here. It's another ugly 5.5 number, but I think this is just a better team going against a bad team. And if they can win by 7-10, that's an easy cover.
Giants are 0-6 in September games in the past 2 seasons, 2-4 against the spread. Since 2016, they're 6-13-1 against the spread in September. They're 0-5 outright and against the spread in their past 5 week 1 games. 0-6 against the spread in their past 6 games as an underdog. Vrabel is 6-10 against the spread when laying at least 5 points. There's a lot of numbers there that go against the Giants here.
Yeah, and that's a game that I could be talked into loving. I don't know how you feel about it.
I think there's a lot of curiosity and anticipation to see Saquon back, but it's kind of been that way for the last couple of years.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. Even when he plays and he plays well, they're still terrible.
But there's a lot of games where he plays and it's 12 carries for 20 yards.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Ever since he's been back, he's kind of not been that great.
Yeah. And, I think there's a couple things that, you said about, just rookie head coach or, new head coach, for the Giants. Daniel Jones, that is a guy that I will say is bad. I know we've talked a little bit about some quarterbacks where I think the public narrative is, they're bad and maybe they're not that bad. I think Daniel Jones is that bad. And there's a lot of question marks around even just, the skill players. Like we talked about, I talked about Saquon, but then Kenny Golladay, it's sort of funny meme it was.
That he runs like a mannequin.
Well, there's that, but then somebody tweeted Daniel Jones and Kenny Golladay could very well be last year's or this year's Daniel Jones and Kenny Golladay. They are just going to be the exact same thing, which is a really bad tandem. Kadarius Toney, I think he flashed one big week last year, but he's a walking ER. I don't know. I don't think there's a lot to love, and I think you said it with the Titans. This is an overlooked team. They were a 1 seed. Henry's back. They're gritty and they're at home.
Yep.
So I think it's interesting. Look, I think you can feel pretty good betting on the Titans against the Giants, Yeah.
And that's the thing. The more that we talk about it, the more it goes from a like to a love for me.
We're betting against a bad team.
Yeah.
That I feel good going into it.
Yeah. It's we got to kind of just trust that Derrick Henry's back and he's healthy and he's just going to rock and do what he's always done. And that typically seems to work for the Titans.
Well, I'm gonna mark this in green. This does give us 6, but there might be another game in here. We got 2 games left. There might be another one that we like, and then we can come back and we can debate what our 5 are. So, all right. Next one is Buccaneers -2.5 at Dallas. What do you got?
So I'm kind of off this game. It's just a weird game to me, right? This is a game that I feel like is kind of put on the schedule to go over. This was the opener last year. Bucks won 31-29. It was the exact same game, season opener, all that, and it just feels like it's meant to be the exact same thing. But so the thing that I've been saying with the Bucks, right, is so Brady had the weird offseason. Who the hell knows what he was actually missing time for, whether it was Mass Singer, plastic surgery, divorce, any of that stuff. But last year they had Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, and Gronk. And this year they have Mike Evans, same guy. But then you have Chris Godwin coming off of the ACL injury,
Yep.
which is the end of last season. And even right now, I think he's a game time decision for week 1.
Yeah,
and then,
he flat out said, "I don't think anybody knows if I'm playing."
Yeah. And also, AB and Gronk are gone, and in their place you have Russell Gage and Julio Jones. And I think Russell Gage is really good. He was starting to break out last year.
Yeah.
Julio Jones, I think, can contribute, but I think that is a huge downgrade at the back end of that receiving game. And then there's also been some huge injuries to that Bucs O line.
Yeah.
And I think that this could kind of
Is
be
Jensen out? Is he like done?
I'm pretty sure it's a pretty bad injury.
Let me look up this O line thing because that should tell us.
Yeah. But then on the flip side, I'm pretty sure the Cowboys have a key. I think it's that Tyron Smith. They have a tough time when he's out, and I think he might be out as well.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find that injury report. Yeah, he's on the IR, so he's expected to return week 13. So Tyron Smith's out, and I'm pretty sure the Cowboys they have a tough go when he's not on the O line for them. But then you also look at their receiving core, right? You got CeeDee Lamb, who he needs to take that step this year. Michael Gallup, he's not playing, he's on the IR, and then Amari Cooper's gone. And I like Jalen Tolbert. I think he's an interesting rookie, but when you're asking him to step up and be your wide receiver 2, when last year that was arguably CeeDee Lamb, but maybe Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
And then this year was expected to be Michael Gallup. It is like that's a bit of a decline there. And I think that's just a weird game. I think the Bucs, they might have a tough season. It's going to be a little bit harder, and I think they're still going to be a dangerous team.
Yeah.
They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to be a dangerous team when you see them there, and I think they'll still finish with a good amount of wins. But the Cowboys as well. It's like kind of where are they at, and is Trayvon Diggs, what the hell is he as a cornerback? Is he really a shutdown guy? Did he just get lucky with all those interceptions last year? What the hell's going on there? But there's just a lot to prove from both sides, or if anything, I should say maybe it's just a lot of uncertainty. So for me, I was just kind of off the game. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's too many questions around it. I don't feel good about this Bucs team right now. They got a lot going on that they're dealing with. I mean, you covered a lot of it, but this is a very different team than what we saw.
Yeah. And they could just be in like that kind of LeBron on the Cavs second time mode where they just said, fuck it. Like, yeah, we'll be the 5 seed. And, because we just, as long as we get in the playoffs, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. That's kind of been the story with Brady while he's been there. I mean, I know last year they were the 2 seed, but like, there's always kind of been a little bit of this, like they don't come out of the gates.
Yeah.
Even the year that they won it as what, a 5? They won it as a 5 seed.
I believe they did. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And they had to rattle off 7 straight to win it. I think they're going to be a team that, assuming they don't have any more devastating injuries as the season goes on, I think they will get stronger as the season goes on.
I mean, they'll probably sign guys. Like they'll probably
but I think they're really vulnerable right now. I could see them being really rusty, and it's not to say that the Cowboys don't have their own question marks and problems to deal with, but I think you're right in that it's too weird of a game to bet on. I'd rather keep my money, and I'd rather keep a pick.
Yeah.
So, all right, last game. Broncos visiting Seattle. Broncos are given 6.5. The return of Russell Wilson.
Yeah, so this is
what a matchup, by the way, huh?
Yeah.
Like what a way to schedule that for the Monday night game.
Yeah.
And they're back to the lone Monday night game. They're not doing the doubleheader.
Hate to see it.
Yeah.
But so this is one I kind of like the Seahawks plus 6.5 here. But I don't really have the balls to take it. I think the Broncos are just overrated. There were both of these teams were 7-9 last year.
Yep.
and Russell Wilson was not very good last year. Obviously they were 7-9 with him, and now he's joining a team that's 7-9, so you expect a boost there. But I just don't think that the boost is as big. Like I don't think they're a Super Bowl contending team. It's like they're just I just don't really see it. And Russell Wilson does not have better receivers than he had last year. Sure, he has Javonte Williams, who is looking to take that step, but this Broncos defense, I think they have they might have like a solid defense, but I don't think they're anything to write home about. I just don't really see how they're like this kind of powerhouse team in the AFC West. I think that they actually could end up being the fourth place team in the division.
Yeah.
It is kind of interesting. Broncos inside of a touchdown. It does make me think, but I feel like if you're taking that, you're kind of really relying on them to win by 7.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing this as a blowout. Russell Wilson has shown to maybe start off very hot and have those huge games, but I don't know. I kind of want to see Russ first. I want to see him in Denver. I
I
want to
do
see him.
too.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I were talking about this game, I think last week when I was driving home at one point. It's like, you were talking a little bit about just like with everything that Russ had in Seattle, look at what they were.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, and we're not talking like, 2012 to 2014 Russ. We're talking like 2018 to 2021.
Yeah.
Look at what they were. I mean, they were an average team at best, and he was very unimpressive. Very frustrating to watch. Has DK Metcalf, has Tyler Lockett, and although those guys would pop off and have their big games, like it just felt like, despite having those weapons and despite having some pretty good weapons in the backfield, and guys like Chris Carson and whatnot, like it just felt like they were a very underachieving team under his leadership. And it feels like, and I think you said this, like he's kind of going from like one situation to another that kind of feels the same. So like what's different,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, the one thing that's a little concerning to me is like Geno Smith at quarterback for the Seahawks. But yeah, I think I'm at a
I mean, I
little.
don't think they were that bad. I mean, I'll look up what the actual games were, but I mean, they were 1-2 with them. I mean, obviously, I think it's
Yeah,
fair to assume that if they had a larger sample size, that record would be worse, maybe.
yeah,
But at the same time, it's like I don't think he's, you know, as bad as it sounds when you say that, oh, Geno Smith's our starting quarterback.
It's not good.
They lost 23-20 to Pittsburgh. They lost 13-10 to New Orleans, and then they beat the Jags 31-7. Those were the 3 games with Geno Smith. He completed 72% of his passes, had a 55% game. That was against New Orleans, though, and then 83% of his passes against Jacksonville. He really didn't play that bad. He threw 1 interception, and that was when he had to step in. He didn't even start that game. He threw 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in his 3 starts.
Yeah, but I mean,
And those are 2 losses against 2 good teams. I mean, so you look at that 1-2, and maybe the 1-2 is actually not as bad as it sounds. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I think it's just that's a team that likes to run the ball, and if Geno's kind of just playing that efficient, holding on to the ball and not turning it over,
yeah,
that 6.5 point spread. It's like, I mean, if they're just running the ball, eating up that clock, and then I mean, I don't necessarily know what they have on that defensive side right now, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not too high on either side, but I just feel like it's too many points for me to really trust the Broncos, and I just kind of like the range of possibilities on that underdog side more. But I
yeah,
mean, either way, I just don't really like either side.
yeah. I mean, I don't. It's kind of a game I want to stay away from.
Yeah,
I can't really get behind either side with conviction. I think there's just like there's too many question marks involved. I don't know, which it's kind of unfortunate because I do love having us in the Sunday night and the Monday night games, and week 1 of the NFL season we're going to be out of both.
yeah,
But I don't know. I think I'd rather just watch these games and kind of see what everybody's got,
yeah,
and not have to sweat out a pick.
yeah, exactly.
All right, we've gone through them all. We have 6 games. So we had 6 games that we marked as we would take. We had two games that we had flagged as potential. So let me just go back through them. We've got we were on the Saints -5.5 against the Falcons. We were on the Steelers +6.5 against the Bengals. We were on the Eagles -4 at Detroit. We're on the Cardinals, who are home dogs, getting 6 against the Chiefs. We were on the Raiders, who are getting 3.5 against the Chargers at the Chargers. And we were on the Titans -5.5 at home against the Giants. The other two games we were iffy on. We had our contrarian pick potentially of the Commanders -2.5 against Jacksonville. Although I think given the rest of the games that we've talked about, that one could be out.
Yeah.
And potentially going Vikings +1.5 at home against Green Bay.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess first things first, like how do we feel about the Commanders pick and the Vikings pick? Like,
I think we can just cross those off. I think,
okay, all right.
you know,
So
I think that I think that top 6 we have, I think that's what we just got to kind of make the decision of who we want to cut from that. I feel like that's I think we got a strong 6 there.
yeah, yeah. All right. Well, let's how do we want to go through this and try and whittle this down? I mean, we're only going to whittle it down by one, but is there? I mean, of these picks, is there one? Is there one in particular that you're feeling less confident about?
So I really like the Saints pick.
Yeah,
Like I have that as my number 1.
yeah,
Um and I'm looking at it. I really like these underdogs. The Raiders 3.5, Cardinals +6,
yeah,
Steelers +6.5. So that almost makes me want to choose between, for the 5th spot, the Eagles -4 and
yeah,
Tennessee -5.5.
yeah.
Um, I mean, where do you stand on that? I mean, what do you think? Like, what do you think for like the top 5?
I mean, I do love our dog picks. I do think that Saints pick is the right pick. I just there's not really anything out there that makes me believe in the Falcons there at all.
Yeah,
Um, the so yeah, I mean, I am looking at like Eagles, Lions, and Titans, Giants, and it's interesting. Like I loved that Eagles pick, but then at the same time, as we did talk about that Titans pick some more, I'm just like,
that's
man,
exactly where I'm at. I kind of
like
yeah,
these
because
Giants,
because I mean, maybe the Lions. When we're just looking at these opponents, it's like, I mean, obviously the Raiders are playing a good team with the Chargers, the Cardinals are playing the Chiefs, the Steelers are playing the Bengals, but I think that those are good, valuable underdogs where I'm looking at a favorite and I mean, maybe the Lions do keep it close. Maybe it comes down to a field goal or something where, I just feel more confident in Tennessee to kind of come out and just blow this Giants team out.
yeah,
And I like having a majority of underdogs in our top 5, at least for now, because I do think this is a solid underdog week. And I mean, I did like those underdogs like the Vikings and the Jags that we were looking at, and then obviously we ended up flipping on them. But at least with the Jags. But I do think this is an interesting underdog week, so I do like kind of having that majority. And yeah, I kind of like slotting in the Titans over the Eagles actually.
okay. I'm trying to see. I think you and I both follow him. The Ian McMillan.
Yeah.
He actually, I think I saw earlier today, he was predicting the Giants to upset the Titans.
I don't think he's that great of a
I don't
gambler.
think he is either, but if I can find it, unless he already retracted the bet and deleted it. Here it is. I kind of want to just read what he's saying just to see if yeah, he's going Giants money line
Yeah.
against Titans. Former Bills offensive coordinator has taken over. This bet is more so a fade of the Titans than a bet on the Giants. Um, they were 19th in net yards per play last year. Truly one of the most undeserving number 1 seeds in the AFC's history. But didn't they? I mean, they lost Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Like so.
We were talking about it at the draft the other day where it took Jonathan Taylor, who had this unbelievable season. It took him
Yeah.
like a month to catch Derrick Henry in yards.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It did. He doesn't really have a compelling argument here, so I think he
No,
might be.
I think that's a very like surface level argument. You just look at it because I mean, it's like I said, it's just so easy to see. Like, okay, yeah, they traded away AJ Brown. I mean, it was pretty much a straight up trade, AJ Brown for Traylon Burks. But I think a lot of people are forgetting that they signed Robert Woods, and Robert Woods is a very good receiver.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah, and I mean, I still, I still love that Eagles pick, but I mean, if I had to make an argument against it, it is, the Lions are gritty, and that could be a situation where it's a backdoor cover.
Yeah,
They're
and that's just the one that like my eyes just keep going to, and I'm looking down the list and I'm figuring out which one
yeah,
do I feel kind of the most uneasy with, and
yeah,
I still like it. I mean, I originally had it in the top 5, but yeah, I mean, if one's got to go, it's like I love that Saints pick. I love our underdogs, so it just comes down to that. And I do like this Titans spread a little bit more.
yeah. All right, so we are Saints minus 5.5, Steelers plus 6.5, Cardinals plus 6, Raiders plus 3.5, and Titans minus 5.5/6. Those are our picks for week 1.
Word.
Um, I don't really have any reservations about putting those in now. So if you're comfortable with it, I can just put them in now.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, it takes a lot for something to come up tomorrow, and I don't think any of these games have anything that's worth. It's not like we're taking the Niners with Kittle or something. Like, there's nothing that we
yeah,
should be kind of looking at right now.
yeah, we're
So
not monitoring anything per
yeah,
se. And I think if I don't know that Tom is going to go until Saturday morning anyway.
yeah,
Um, so I think if something did come up, if somebody got hit by a bus, um, we could probably get a hold of him
yeah,
and get a correction. So I'll put these in. We'll lock them in for the Moops week 1.
yeah, yeah. Might as well just get them in now.
All right. All righty.
All right.
So are you uploading this to YouTube? You're gonna throw some graphics on it, a little bit of intro, outro music. What are you doing?
I don't know. I'll mess around with it tomorrow. Just kind of see, Premiere Pro or whatever. So
You should. Can you pull the audio from that?
that's a lot of work.
Peanut-
I'm probably not going to do that.
But it would maybe that's something like we'll build this thing as we go.
Yeah.
But if we can get the audio of George saying the Moops.
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely pull it. It's more just that wouldn't be the hard part. It would be more if we wanted to like put it over some music or something. I'd have to
Oh yeah. Yeah,
put
yeah,
more effort in.
yeah. All right. Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. That's week 1.
Yep.
We'll revisit these next week.
Yeah. Yeah. Just let me know when you submit those.
I will.
All
We're
right.
going. All right. I'll see you
See ya.
later.